Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit True of My Chest and it's by user Deleted. No one from my family showed up because I married my sister's crush. My sister and my husband went to college together. She had a crush on him since day one. He was all she talked about. They became part of a very close group of friends, and that same year she invited him and her friends to spend Boxing Day with my family. That's where I met him. We had sex that same night and I felt horrible. My sister eventually moved on. She met her husband and she got married last summer. During all these years, my husband and I met sporadically, and one of the times he told me he loved me, but what could we have done? We tried to date others and I tried to forget him, but I couldn't imagine myself with anyone else, and that made my relationships short and loveless. We met again, officially, at my sister's wedding. She had invited all her college friends. My husband and I met and he asked me to stop running away and we started dating secretly. A year later, he proposed. Now, I had to tell my family and I have never endured so much hate and isolation in my whole life. I lied to them. I told them that we met at my sister's wedding and we hit it off. I never told them how I've been in love with him for almost a decade and that we have met at least once a year since that Christmas, and they've been the best days of my life. My sister is happily married and she just had her baby. Still, she told me she hated me and never wanted anything to do with me. My family shared the same sentiment, that I'm a horrible person. My husband told me that he didn't care about a wedding if my family not showing up would hurt me. We have wasted many years and we didn't choose to fall for each other. He wanted me to be his wife. I still sent invitations to my family, but nobody showed up. Only my friends and my husband's family. I wish they could forgive me for finally choosing my happiness. Well, OP, in my opinion, the only thing that you've done wrong is that you weren't upfront with your family from the beginning. And maybe the other thing that you shouldn't have done, and it's a big maybe, is not sleeping with him that first night. Maybe it would have been better to just let your sister have a shot, get shot down because he was clearly into you, and then you could have had your shot and moved on, and your sister should have been okay with that, right? But apart from that, your whole family is acting like a-holes. What is your sister saying? That she doesn't want to have anything to do with you just because you married her college crush? Considering that she is now married and actually had a baby with her husband? I would honestly think this is a huge red flag for him. I mean, if I was in his shoes, it'd definitely be one for me. Because really, her reaction tells me that it wasn't a crush. She was either infatuated for a really long time, which is kind of weird because infatuation lasts only for a little while, or she's obsessed. OP, if I was in your shoes and I was being shunned by my family, you know what I do? I just come clean, tell them the truth, and let the chips fall where they may. Honestly, I believe that the only thing that matters right now, or that should matter to you, is your relationship with your husband and the future that you guys have together. And what do you guys think about this whole situation? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Relevant Dependent 3 says, I don't think it's so much the guy as the betrayal of you going after him. You knew how much you liked him and you still went after him. You don't do that to your friends, much less your sister. You slept with him the first night you met him, while knowing your sister was in love with him. I do understand that they didn't date, so technically there's no harm, no foul, but you can't change how people feel. Drinks Coffee at Night says, so basically your family thinks she owns him because she had a crush on him 10 years ago? Favoritism much? She's married, so it's unfair to her husband. Also to your husband, whose opinion doesn't matter to your family. So he basically being objectified by them, and unfair to you as well. Your family sounds awful. New Environment 9700 says, your sister is a bit psycho. She had a crush and it wasn't returned. She moved on and you guys fell in love. She clearly isn't over it or she wouldn't care. Your family is being ridiculous too. Life is short and you deserve your own happiness. You know sleeping with him that first night when you knew your sister liked him wasn't right, but you tried to make up for that sense. Live your life and be happy. Full Frontal 687 says, so your sister had been talking up this guy for quite some time as her crush, and she invites him and some friends over, and somehow you are sleeping with him that very night? Am I reading that correctly? If this had been told from your sister's point of view, it would have been perceived by most people as some kind of malignant power moves to basically gut your sister and rub her nose in the mud. My guess is that even though she has moved on, she has never gotten over that sense of betrayal, and now she feels she is going to be reminded of it for the rest of her life. The fact that the rest of your family is siding with her makes me feel like you were downplaying the fallout of what happened after the original event. Additional information from OP's comments. So, Boxing Day 10 years ago. At that time, I lived in my own apartment near my parents. After dinner, we had a party in my apartment. He told me he knew why I have been avoiding him and that he doesn't feel the same way about my sister. It was the biggest regret of my life letting him come back after everyone went to sleep. Biggest regret and the most amazing night at the same time. And after that Christmas, she asked him out and he said no. He told her he saw her as a sister. She moved on a couple of years later. After that, we would occasionally sleep together when both of us were single at the same time. Maybe once a year for almost a decade. I never meant to fall for him, it just happened. My sister was kind of obsessed with him in college, yes. But later when she met her husband, she fell madly in love. That's what she said. And she hadn't spoken about my husband for years. After we slept together, he wanted us to start dating, but I refused. We started again when she gave him up, moved on, and met her now husband almost 3 years after our first night. And about my wedding, we're not a big family. When I said none of my family showed up, I meant my sisters and mom. My grandparents passed away a long time ago. My dad passed away 3 years ago. My 3 sisters refused to come. I have 2 aunts, and I don't know how much they know about the whole thing, but it was enough for them that my mom, their sister, was angry at me. Other relatives aren't close enough to be invited. We had a small wedding. I have 3 close friends and a handful of others that showed up with their partners. Anyway, I still don't know if she still has feelings for my husband, or just because I broke the sister code of not sleeping with each other's love interests. I want to think it's the second, but maybe I'm mistaken, and in that case, I'm so sorry and honestly don't know what to do. I will never fool myself by pretending what I did was right or okay. Even my husband knows that I believe what we did was disgusting, horrible, and very selfish. But when she was happy and had been for years, I finally went about having my own happiness too. Edit to add. I'm getting a lot of questions about telling the whole story. I don't know what more I should have written here other than this. Maybe I didn't do a good job with my sister's crush. My sister is outgoing and she was always open with her thoughts and feelings, so her crush on my husband was a well-known thing to us sisters and mother, and it was known for the longest time. That's the why to the following points. 1. If they have known about me and him going back longer than what I've said, believe me, they would have confronted me a long time ago. Given their reaction after I told them even after all these years, they wouldn't be silent if they knew something was up. Also, they were really shocked and felt that I betrayed my sister and hurt her feelings because he's an old crush and we don't date each other's crushes, let alone marry them. 2. I misjudged my sister's crush. We all knew she was in love and that she was hurt when he didn't reciprocate, but I thought by the time she met her husband, she was over him. Now I'm not sure. 3. I haven't spoken to my sister's husband in months, but from what I've heard, he's not happy about her reaction and things aren't going so well with him. This is also added to why my family is angry, because I caused the rift between my sister and brother-in-law. 4. We are 4 sisters. I'm the second oldest and my sister in question is the youngest. All 4 of us are of similar age and closer, were anyway, than best friends. This adds more because she feels really betrayed. 5. Yes, I have made a post before on relationship advice. I just couldn't find it. Neither could I and I pulled all the stops. 6. Many are saying my sister is here somewhere with her side of the story. Please send me the link because I've been searching since this morning. I really hope I filled in all the missing information now. Sorry for not being clear and I'm sorry this isn't adequate as the full story. Last edit. I'm getting the M's that my post is on TikTok and that my sister is in the comments saying that I lied and that she had in fact dated my husband for 5 years. There's no truth to that. It's either a troll or someone else because all the people who said my sister has answered are refusing to show me her post. Anyway, I'm going to send an email to my family tonight and include the whole truth. It's my last attempt at redemption. If they still don't want anything to do with me, I will leave them be and move on with my life and try to find solace in my new family. Thank you all for listening. Okay, so in the community we did get some different opinions, but there is one thing that jumped at me, and it was in OP's additional edits where she said that now she's being blamed because her sister's marriage is failing? I'm sorry, how is OP guilty of that? The sister was the one that had the meltdown because she's obsessed with OP's husband. I honestly find that line of reasoning absolutely moronic. It wasn't OP's fault. And if that marriage fails, OP's sister only has herself to blame. Anyways, OP gave us 2 updates, but before we get on with the first one, I gotta show you another playlist for you guys to enjoy later, like this one that only has stories with updates on them. Now let's move on with the first of the 2 updates. Hi everyone, I thought I would make an update about my post since I received a lot of advice about coming clean to my family about when and how I started dating my husband. But before that, I want to clarify a few points. My sister has not written any posts about her side of the story. I got a lot of abusive DMs yesterday from people who pretended to have talked to my sister about how she was dating my husband for 5 years, not only an unanswered crush, and yet nobody could or would send me the post. One Redditor sent me something from Am I the A-hole about a lady whose daughter made an ultimatum about her choosing one of her grandchildren. That's not me, I don't have children. I only ever have written one post about this before, and it was when I sent the wedding invitations and my family said they won't come. Also, many asked about the full story because my mother's reaction was so strong. My sister is the youngest and everyone's favorite, and her crush on my husband was well known. When he didn't reciprocate her feelings, my mom was very hurt for her sake. As for the rest, they just do what mom says since she's the matriarch of the family. I would have understood their reaction if they knew the whole truth because I will never forgive myself for what I did. My only comfort is that before we spent that night together, my husband told me that he never liked my sister that way and he wouldn't be with her no matter if I was with him or not. Now for the update. As I said, many of you suggested that I should come clean. There are pros and cons. Pros are that it's the right thing to do, and if my sister wants to hate me, she has the right to know the full extent of my betrayal. I will never pretend what I did back then was right. I just fell for him. Is that a good enough excuse? And seeing that I still love him so many years later, it was real from the beginning. The cons are that it would probably hurt my sister even more and probably jeopardize her marriage even more if it turns out she's still hung up over my husband. So I wrote a long email to my mother telling her everything and asking her what should I do. I texted her to go read it. That was last night. This morning she called me and was so cold. She didn't ask how I've been, didn't congratulate me, didn't ask about my husband. She was on point and warned me about telling my sister anything. She said that my brother-in-law has moved out of their home and is asking for a divorce. So if I told my sister everything now, it will only make it worse for her. She said that I'm not allowed to contact my sister in any way and for any reason. I should leave her alone and move on with my life. She said that she couldn't believe her eyes when she read my email and how horrible I actually have been towards my sister. Worse than I thought. My mom's coldness made me understand how much I've hurt my family. I apologized for everything. She said, "Is there anything else? Fine, goodbye then." Later, my oldest sister called me. She has always been the gentlest and she told me that she missed me and that mom told her everything. The separation between my little sister and her husband is serious. They have been fighting for months now and he left on my wedding day because my sister was very angry and crying all day. Big sister said that they didn't want to bother me with these details on my honeymoon. I asked her if she was angry at me and she said that none of them actually is, except my little sister, but that I should give it time. I've talked to my husband now about everything and I asked him if we have messed up. He just comforted me and told me to be patient, but I don't know. Our marriage started with hardship and at the cost of one of my favorite people and her husband. I'm so sorry. Edit. Please, I'm gonna have to ask you to stop about the sister side of the story and that supposed post from her that no one has the link to. Regardless, my sister never dated my husband. That's BS. This is so disrespectful to my husband. He loved me for almost 10 years and yet he never cheated on any of his girlfriends with me. We went on long periods of no contact when he was in relationships, so cheating on my sister is just a cruel rumor. Please stop. And please stop DMing me about TikTok unless you have my sister's alleged post. When I told my family about dating my husband, it was a bit under a year after my sister's wedding. They, Mom, thought I had just met him and that I should just end the relationship because I was hurting my sister for a man I'd met a few months ago and now I was planning an engagement with. When I told my mom the truth yesterday about me being in love with him for so many years, I hoped she would be a bit more understanding, even with the fact that I was horrible in the beginning, that she would think this was real. But no, she was even madder. I see her point though in never telling my sister the whole truth. OP, your mom sucks and there's clear favoritism here. You shouldn't let your mom have so much control about how you should feel or the things that you should do. And again, your sister's marriage failing is on her, not on you. Anyway, let's move on to the final update to the story to see how it ends. Good evening everyone. I thought I might make a new update since many of you are asking for more updates. It's a short one this time. So my brother-in-law texted me yesterday asking to see me. I agreed because I wanted to see what he was thinking and if I could help in any way. When we met, he looked tired and miserable. He had my niece with him. I broke down crying because I haven't seen her before. I wasn't sure if I could ask to hold her, but he didn't even hesitate in placing her in my arms. She's the spitting image of my little sister. So beautiful. He asked me to tell him everything and to be honest. When I finished my story, he told me that he never liked my husband, or rather never liked his wife's obsession with him. He said she always talked about him, followed him closely on social media, and automatically hated every woman he dated. My sister never really was in contact with my husband, and she never called, texted, or DM'd him, but she watched him closely. She commented when he gained weight or lost weight, grew a beard or gained muscles. All the while, her husband was displeased and showed how uncomfortable he was with it. He asked her not to invite him to the wedding, but she insisted on it. Now he said that she was yelling that it was her fault that we met each other because she invited him. She should have listened to her husband. So now he had enough, and unfortunately he can't see a way back. He cried and told me he feels like he was letting his baby down, and I cried so much for all three of them because I feel guilty too. I don't understand why she's doing this. She had an amazing husband who adored her and a baby she was dreaming about since we were teenagers. I asked him if he could just give her time to come out of her grief, but he just shook his head. Afterward, he congratulated me and wished me good luck and left with my niece. And that's it. That's all OP ever wrote about this story in post or comment form. And after all of this, I believe that OP's sister needs therapy, but not because of what OP did. She clearly was obsessed and also stalking him online. She shouldn't have gotten married in the first place or had a baby. Honestly, I absolutely understand the husband for divorcing her. Hopefully she does get help. In any case, OP, here's wishing you and your husband all the best in the future. I hope you both live happy lives. Thank you for sharing, OP, and take care. Now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Gingerly Forged. Manager tries to crack down on dress code. I respond by wearing yoga pants to work. So I, 34 male, used to work at a popular convenience store chain years ago. Really popular, with a cult-like following. I've always been a bit of a clown, but very good at following rules while doing so. After working there for a few years and seeing managers come and go, we got in a new woman who was just miserable and really wanted to flex her authority. Shortly after she started, she posted the uniform portion of the handbook in the break room and started complaining about people's attire, but clearly took the biggest issue with girls wearing yoga pants. So I, being a petty rule follower, combed through the policy and noticed some things in the wording. The rules stated that yoga pants are allowed as long as the ankles flared and there was no gender designation for these articles. Cue Malicious Compliance. A friend and I went to Walmart after work and I bought a couple of flared yoga pants. Now, mind you, I'm not a huge guy, but I am chubby and have a big beard. I began wearing them almost every day I worked, and especially if she was working. This infuriated her. I would regularly hear her protest and even saw her go to the assistant general manager and general manager. The response was always, "I can't say anything, he's in dress code." This continued for a month tops before she requested a transfer. But what made it even more fun was trolling weird pervert customers. They would stand in the deli area and gawk at the young ladies working, especially if they were bent over the hot food table. When I would notice this, I would sidle over beside them and give the boys two butts to look at before whipping my head around and making eye contact with them. The level of disgust on their faces filled my heart with joy. Very nice, OP. We got a twofer over here. Thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.